Friday,
Yeah.
I'm subbing for Lubie, who's off in Spain, and had to come back and tell me how great Spain was. And how, like, oh, you really need to go to Spain, Ken. You would love Spain. On the same fucking day where Trump announces he's going to let Elon computerize all airplanes. Like, have you been on fucking Twitter? You're letting this man now control your lives with airplanes. The best case scenario is that fucking Sophie Rain is going to be walking up and down the aisles selling her OnlyFans on every airplane. And if you don't understand that Sophie Rain reference, you should thank God, because everybody who's been on Twitter in the last few years does. But the way Elon runs fucking Twitter, you want to let this man now be in charge of your actual life by getting on an airplane? There is no way I'm going to Spain. I'm going anywhere. I would rather take the goddamn Bright Line in terms of safety. And it kills like 4 people a day, but at least they're outside the train. It's not the passengers.
Not a great idea to stop on the tracks. We would have to agree with that.
I 1,000%. I don't want to get on the Bright Line either. But compared to airplanes right now, it seems like the safest ride in the history of history.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest. We got Mike Lubie Lubitz, and ready for you later on today. Tony Segreto goes old school with us. The iconic broadcaster Tony Segreto joins us. That's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. Outstanding place. I don't know, Lubie. I really don't. I don't know how they do it. With prices going through the roof, grocery stores, I don't know that any of that has really taken any perceivable change yet. It was supposed to go the other direction, but so far, I mean, we're pretty much setting ourselves up to be at war with everybody, the entire world, and dismantling the government at the same time. So kind of an interesting period of time. The times, they are a-changing. I should go Johnny Addy on this. The times, they are changing. They're changing in a lot of different areas also, Libby, especially in the sporting world. Now, I never thought I would be one of these guys, Libby, where, I mean, when I was growing up, baseball was the number one game. It was America's pastime. Football was essentially, I've said this many, many times over the years, football was essentially a diversion between the time that the World Series ended, last out was recorded, and pitchers and catchers reported for spring training. As soon as that situation occurred, you were off the whole bandwagon and thinking, geez, I don't care about football anymore. I'm going to be obsessed, possessed, totally all in, dialed in on baseball from now through, well, now it will be November. But that doesn't happen anymore, does it, Libby? People sort of disinterested. I guess the rest of the country, can we go by South Florida, Libby? The rest of the country has more of a passing interest in baseball than we certainly do here in the town without pity, the town of indifference, the city of false hope. And we were talking about it yesterday. I'm watching this interview with Bruce Sherman, and he literally, I mean, he looked like he looked a little like Bill Gates talking baseball or something. I don't know. And Gates, you might have respected it more because at least you know he owns the shirt on his back. Whereas in baseball terminology, as you've been pointing out, it's hard to speak of a man who's worth $500 million and think of him as being broke.
Yeah, like I mean, he's not, again, in life. He's worth somewhere between $300 and $500 million. I don't know what he's worth now. I presume what's funny is he's made money on the Marlins because, again, he's the way they spend money, the TV contracts for the actual MLB overall make him money more than it hurt. Like a lot of the other teams, it's just side money that they use to pay players. They don't pay players.
No,
so
they don't pay anybody.
He's probably made money. But I remember when he bought the team, he was worth, like, remember the Jorge Mas, who you were joking about, and there was other people involved. And then you had this guy that was worth like $350 million, and people were like, how are you going to have a guy who's not worth enough to afford a team buying the team? And lo and behold, of course, that's the guy they gave the team to. And it's been sort of, look, they actually made a couple playoffs, I think, since he's on the team, but it's just, it feels like he's pinching pennies all the time. Like, it just feels like what he's doing constantly.
I don't know that much about Jorge No Mas, but he finally said no mas as these negotiations broke down, and they ended up selling the team to Bruce Sherman. But in a place where you have little faith in your franchise, and good reason for that, I mean, very tangible reasons. We've seen in the last couple of years, an atrocity. How do you have a guy? You get a promising young manager like Skip Schumacher. He makes the playoffs with a team that isn't all that great. You bring in a general manager in an innovative, sort of revolutionary move. First female executive to hold a position that high in an organization that was involving player personnel, Kim Eng. She makes a couple of brilliant moves at the trade deadline or late in the season, and picks up two players at Bell and Berger that made a huge difference in their run. I know she bombed out. I forget who the other player she picked up, but it was just god awful. But makes a couple of really good moves. I mean, a general manager that makes two moves that take a team and ignite their move to a playoff, a postseason spot when little was expected of him going into the season. You would have to say, wow, that's somebody really sharp, somebody with some insight, somebody with some foresight.
Yes.
And they let her go, unceremoniously dumped her, bringing in this guy, Betty Reyes, who really, I mean, does he not? It really looks like you're watching Billy Ball, doesn't it? What was it, Billy? The movie Moneyball. That was it.
Moneyball with
Billy Bean. Right.
Billy Bean, good job. I forgot his name.
It was a Billy Bean who was a player who was one of the few at the time. I think he was one of the few pro athletes to come out as being openly gay. That I knew through my buddy Ed Kaplan, and he played. So I get those two confused every now and then. But Billy Bean, legendary. What he did with the Oakland A's was incredible. I mean, another organization that was strapped for capital. To invest in players, and somehow through ingenuity of the front office, my favorite thing, Lubie, you know I love this, when your front office is cooking, where they're coming up with things that other people can only dream about that are in the same position, you really have to like it. Now some of that is luck. Would you say that the Roseman went with the Philadelphia Eagles? Did he benefit from a lot of luck, or was that? I'm going to give him credit for making a lot of very clever moves, but.
Yeah, look, I look, we've seen with the Rays. Again, we haven't seen it win a title yet. Small ball and smart drafting and whatnot, but it's allowed the Rays to be consistent for years. The A's, it's sort of eventually hit its wall. Like they just never had
hard to sustain. Definitely, yes.
Yeah, just and not having fun. Like it's hard to compete year in year out with the big money clubs, but there's a way to be in the middle. Like we've seen the Astros, who are not a huge money franchise, find a way to keep players and continue to win and continue to be successful after starting out as a low money. Like you have to, the idea is you have to use it to get started, but then you have to move into another phase. Like you're hopefully going to get fan support after that. And then television contracts and all that. Like it's not meant to be, it's not what the Marlins try to do it for 25 years. Like you're not supposed to do Moneyball for 40 years. Moneyball is like a way to get you out of the garbage and get you into winning. Like again, the Royals, the A's, the Rays, like if you just do that every year, you're only going to win so much. Like you're not going to be the Yankees and the Dodgers fucking pinching pennies. Like it's just that baseball until they have a salary cap. That's just what it is. Now, Howie Roseman knows what look, we've seen that the Ravens, we've seen franchises, and the Giants did it for years too, until the last was a handful of years. The Giants were one of those franchises, no matter what was going on, you knew that you could count on them. They were consistent because of drafting. Like Roseman, again, he doesn't draft out of desperation. He doesn't draft out of need. He drafts out of, like, they had a ton of defensive linemen. They didn't need Jalen Carter, but the guy was a top 3 pick. But because he has a fucking drinking and driving problem, he was sitting there at the second half of the top 10. So it was like, all right,
syndrome. Yes.
If you have a dude like Jalen Carter sitting there, you draft him. That's the best teams. Don't worry about Lamar Jackson. Like the Ravens weren't running for a quarterback at the time, but the guy was just different. And they had a coach that was willing to change the entire system for a special talent. Like the best teams draft the best players. They don't go, well, we need this, so let's draft a guy that's really a 3rd round grade, but let's draft him at 17. And I know you don't like that term of reaching, but the teams that win don't reach. You don't hear them use, they never use the word reach with the Steelers or the Ravens or the fucking Eagles now, right? Those are guys that just pick the player there and find a way to make it work. Like that's works across sports. Like you've seen that with the Panthers when they finally got a guy like Bill Zito who knew what the goddamn he was doing. Magically, they're winning all the time now. Like,
are you taking a shot at the great Dale Talon?
Yeah.
How many years was he? And he was widely, highly respected as a hockey executive, Dale Talent. But we meandered for years in mediocrity as a Florida Panther franchise in South Florida. And they bring in the Zito guy and zip, zap, zoop. And he's got the whole thing turned around. He's got him sparked up and maybe in a position to come right back and defend their Stanley Cup championship, which is all you can ask if you're a sports fan of your franchise. And you'd love to see it generated by ingenuity in the front office. I'm not seeing any of that yet. I mean, it may take what? Is it going to be a 5-year plan for this Bendix guy? But here we are, and there's nothing to generate any conversation about this team. The possible look, I like Sandy Alcantara. It was a shame that he had to incur Tommy John surgery. Many pitchers of great talent have. And we don't know how much he was compromised. He was kind of going in a so-so fashion after his brilliant year prior, and then got hurt. And you thought, okay, well, maybe this was bothering him or was starting to unravel the ulnar nerve, and gets the Tommy John surgery coming back. But that's the only buzz that can be created by this so far in spring training. Do we have any other players that you're sitting there going, hey, we're excited about? We bought into it like fools when Mike Hill told us that you better watch Sixto Sanchez. And Jazz Chisholm was this other guy that he was touting. Now Chisholm was at least, what would you say, he was more than mildly entertaining as a player to watch, but he was also mildly disappointing as well. Now, maybe they fucked with him a little bit too much, but I don't know. He was in a much broader spotlight this year with the Yankees when he moved on to the New York Yankees, and he did some good things there. But was he really that much better of a ball player with the Yankees than he was here with the Marlins? Probably not, right?
He's always hurt.
265, 270 hitter. Maybe you're hoping he hits 270 with 25 home runs. Certainly not the kind of superstar status that was being predicted for him by Mike Hill when we sat down with Mike Hill and did that interview. And we were lapping it up, Lubie. There was some drool on the tabletop, both coming from you and me, thinking maybe it won't be so bad.
Yeah, you hope. Look, Sixto was supposedly this monster prospect, and Chisholm was the same thing. And Chisholm came in. They put Chisholm on the fucking front of a video game cover just because he showed flashes of very interesting. Like, he just couldn't stay healthy. That's his big issue, is he can't stay healthy. And then when he is healthy, like you just said, he's okay.
A little bit of a penchant for the boneheaded move also.
Yeah, around the base paths. And then now, because he's in the outfield, even though, or I guess the Yankees moved him back to the infield, but with the Marlins, he was in the outfield and he wasn't an outfielder.
No, it wasn't like he was Willie Mays out there.
No, sure. Clemente's not. No.
Had the talent, though. I mean, he had the flash. But the point being that there's nothing. There's zero buzz. There's zero conversation about it. At least in a baseball city like Boston, they have a great controversy. That'll dominate the headlines there. They're not going to be necessarily trying to figure out if Drake May has a potential to be a franchise quarterback all off season, because they have Rafael Devers screaming, "What? You're going to make him our third baseman? No fucking way!"
Oh my God!
Would you piss off a guy like Devers the season that he had last year? They bring in Alex Bregman at a very high price, $40 million a year. I don't know how the money equates out. Devers making more than $40 million a year, because that would certainly be upsetting, since this was a guy who was the main impetus behind anything good that it seemed like that happened for the Red Sox last year, where they showed signs of life. What were they, around 500 for the season? The Boston Red Sox, but always going to be prominent. The walk up to Fenway, I had the opportunity only to do that once, and it was a Red Sox Mariners game in the dead of summer. What was that, June, that Leslie Visser got married to the Duke?
I think so. I think it was summer.
It was exciting. It was like throwback stuff. It was like walking into the Polo Grounds to see the '62 Mets. There was. You could feel like the increasing atmospheric joy as you got closer and closer to the stadium. And then, is that a good way of putting it, Lubie? I don't know. That was kind of a vague description. Increasing atmospheric joy. You're soaking up the atmosphere. As a sports fan, I like the atmosphere. It's one of the reasons that it's fun and entertaining to go to a game, or to go to any live sporting event, because you want to soak up a little bit of the atmosphere as well. And they had that in spades going on as you were just walking from whatever destination you were coming from into Fenway Park for an early season, midsummer game. Somewhere in that area where it wasn't like you were going to face the Yankees in the final weekend of the season. And so naturally everything was amplified. It was good. But I never thought I would, be in this situation where, and some of that is dictated by the fact that our baseball team is irrelevant.
It doesn't
And
help. It definitely there's a combination of, we've talked about it for years, that the game, even people who love the game still don't, like my dad loves baseball even when the Marlins sucked, and he never talks about the Marlins. Like the combination of the game is different now is a real thing. Like it's like the NBA, like the 3-point shot has fucked with the game. The lack of action on the base paths, the lack of action in the field where everything's a walk or a strikeout or a home run. The lack of, there's still good defensive plays, but I remember there used to be like 5 a game. Now, like the defensive plays used to be all throughout the game. Like the action itself is just not there like it once was. And then on top of that, yes, we're in a city where the franchise just doesn't give a shit. They're not even trying right now.
no,
And it's
do
just,
they have is there a message that they put out there? Because like I said, I was only peripherally viewing. It was kind of like the Kendrick Lamar thing, where I missed your brilliant analysis and the point of the whole thing. Although I've come to the conclusion that nobody likes Drake. Is that
No, Drake's
possible?
sort of sucks.
And now Drake was this was a big thing. It was the #1 headline online. This shows you where sports coverage has gone, and maybe where the sport are media people trying to dictate online, especially people trying to dictate what it is that fans are interested in? Or are fans really
Sure.
interested in the fact that Drake spiked a DeMar DeRozan jersey at a concert that he was playing in Australia? Somebody threw a DeRozan jersey up there, and of course, DeRozan and Drake, I would imagine, used to be pretty close when DeRozan was playing with the Raptors. He was a great player there,
Yes.
and Drake, of course, is always courtside. He has the same seat as Jack Nicholson does, or did for many years. Is Jack still going to the Laker games? Because
I
that
don't
thing
know.
that he did on Saturday Night Live, he was in the audience for the 50-year anniversary show, and I thought I heard some commentator saying, "Well, that's the first time we've seen Jack on television in
No,
like 20 years."
he sort of went secluded for a while. Like he
By the way,
stopped.
the other guy is a guy named Lou Adler, the guy that sits with Big Jack, the guy with the hat, the goofy looking glasses.
Yeah.
Big time music producer, was inducted recently, I think last year or maybe the year before, into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Produced a lot of great groups. Lou Adler. That's funny too, because you're thinking Jack bought this homeless guy there or some kind of hip to be with, and you're asking yourself how wonderful it would be to be that guy that Jack Nicholson decided to have courtside at every Laker game during the heyday of Laker basketball, several heydays that they had while he was a fan. And then it turned out the guy that's sitting next to him could buy and sell him. It's very similar to that whole thing I had with Barry Gordy and Bruce McNall, the former owner of the LA Kings, who was a numismaticist. Is that the way you say it?
Okay.
A coin collector, supposedly. But the only coin he was collecting were other people's money, and Birdie
Exactly.
made it in fashion. He had some nice racehorses, that guy. But you're looking at a guy that you think is a complete derelict, and you're asking yourself how, if you had the same heart, if you had the same amount of money, would you be that good to like a homeless guy? And it turned out it was Barry Gordy, founder and owner of Motown Records. But Adler, kind of fits that bill as well. Point being, though, here we are, and we're sort of transitioning, which I don't think is a good word to use in the media anymore, because we're likely to get shut down by the Doge people there, Department of Government Efficiency, because transitioning is not a good thing. And especially, you don't want to mention a word like that in the state of Florida, do you, Louie?
Oh no. Oh no.
Has Ron DeSantis gone completely mad? And in his madness, is it possible that somehow by accident he actually does some good for people? Because it seemed like he had gone insane. I mean, he was over the top right wing stuff, and really just a radical Trump follower after this bitter defeat and embarrassment that he had in running for president, when everybody said, "Okay, one asshole is enough, Ron. We're not buying you with your slick back hair and your stupid looking face." But did I see something where he's talking about eliminating property taxes now in the state of Florida, Lubie? You're in real estate. You should be aware of this. Is that really
I don't know.
a possible circumstance that may come about? How great would that be? And while he's at it, you can eliminate homeowners associations and insurance costs supposedly are going to be hacked by 20% also.
I
Not
don't-
hiked, but hacked.
I don't trust them to do things that are actually good. So I tend to think when they do things that people are excited about, we're not looking at the consequences to those things. Yes, paying property taxes sucks. especially if you don't have it rolled into your mortgage. So you have to like come up with a chunk of money every year like that.
DeSanto in January barely survived a month.
5, 6, 7, 8, 10 grand. Like,
yeah,
that is ridiculous. Like, so the idea of it going away would be wonderful.
I couldn't even get my teeth fixed. I had to pay my property tax.
My parents, it's happened to my parents a lot. What I'm curious is what was that money for? And now if it goes away, what are we now not having? And I know people don't like thinking of those things in this world where they're just cutting everything and they don't tell you why or what it did. And then half the time, like, oh, fuck, that was important. We need to go bring them back. You know, like, I know that's foresight is not a thing we have in this time, and we haven't had it in the state in 20 years.
I would imagine this comes from government funding, statewide government funding, but certain cities are, of course, responsible for their local parks. But I have to say, being out there and an advocate of going outside, playing basketball from the time I got here and then stopping that probably like 35 years ago and taking up tennis. Well, we have great parks here for recreation, Louie. You never really lived anywhere else, but we would have killed to have the kind of facilities that you have now. Now, granted, it's 60 years later from when I was growing up in Brooklyn, but great parks in Florida. Would you agree, people? A lot of people out there that listen to sports talk are out recreationally playing various sports. The public parks here are they not as good as any place in terms of facilities, Lubie? Is that a fair statement, or would you say that that's just total bullshit because the one in Pompano happens to be great?
No, I look, I don't know what other areas are, but you're not wrong. Like, it's interesting here. Like, just by my house, within 5 minutes, there's like 3 or 4 parks.
Yeah,
like there's parks everywhere. I don't know if that's like
well maintained. I mean, well groomed.
Oh no, yeah. There's people. It's not like like when I was growing up, you used to get the parks that were like dead and rusty, and like no one would go to them. Like none of these, like all these are really. Well, but again, I think that I don't think that was DeSantis. Like, I think that's a South Florida thing that was very much blue for a long time.
Oh, this was in place, yeah. Long
other parts of the state don't have that. Like, I was in Tallahassee, didn't have. Like, that's the thing is, again, you have to fund those things. We don't like taxes because we don't see the end result of them, but they exist for a reason. So again, I don't poo-poo anything. Shirley brought this up last night, and I said to her, before we get excited, I'm curious what we're losing, because that's the part that this regime doesn't discuss when they cut fucking things.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll see the consequences. I'm sure they'll play out, and they'll be horrific once we get around to it. It'll be scorched earth. So the point of all this, I don't know how we deviated into around DeSantis, but somehow we managed to get there. And the point of all this is that football has ended, and we're transitioning. Oh, that's how we get into DeSantis, the transitioning thing. Which he would be, just dramatically opposed to 1,000% antithesis of. So I never thought I would be one of these guys, though, Lubie, where I'm transitioning from the football season, and I'm trying to focus in on what it is that's going to be getting the majority and the largesse of whatever attention I'm paying to sports. Which I'm always watching something. Yeah. I was even watching a little bit just because the channel happened to be on ESPN, and they are pumping that TGL, at Tiger Golf League, very hard.
Oh, God.
Have you caught any of this, Lubie?
No.
No? Okay. I'll tell you what I like about it. I like a few things about it, actually. I like seeing guys that normally are perceived to be complete, almost zombie-like stiffs, enjoying themselves doing what they do. All right, so they have this big intro, and they do this whole thing. I don't know. They had to have taped all of this stuff at once, because it would be extremely difficult to get all of these top players that are participating in this. And okay, a lot of people would say, it's just a bunch of millionaires finding another way to make millions of dollars for themselves without really having to do much. But if they aren't enjoying themselves, they certainly are the best actors I've ever seen.
Okay, that's good.
So that's a plus. Number 2. And this has been a marketing problem in 2 of my favorite sports forever, because there's the perception, and it's probably correct, that both horse racing and boxing, in terms of sustaining themselves, whiffed on not just one, but maybe multiple generations of people that they could have tried to turn into fans. With very poor marketing strategies, going old school and not realizing that, as we said at the top of the show, the theme of the show, the times they are changing, right, Lubie? Yeah. And so I think if you were looking at an old stodgy game like golf, which is like boxing and horse racing, perceived to be something that if you're not 65 plus, you're probably not watching TV. Look at the ads on a golf broadcast. What are they for? Retirement funding can be made easy. Geritol. I mean, it's all this kind of stuff. So they're targeting an older demographic, and there's probably, I would imagine, some relevance to the idea that how are people going to get interested in golf if this Gen X or what are we on now? Z, Lubie,
Millennial
generations. I mean,
after X is millennial, so the most of the golfers would be millennials. Gen Z's like in their early to mid 20s.
is there not some merit in the attempt to attract younger eyeballs into the game?
Yeah, that's the thing that we keep talking about. That they keep going back to Tiger. Like the young kids don't give a shit about Tiger. Like they're not bringing in.
You don't think his presence is so large that
For
it
older
eclipses
people,
generations?
for older people, like again,
Kids aren't into Tiger Woods.
Jordan for some reason crosses over to the young audience because of
Yeah.
the shoes. Like Tiger doesn't. He right in the middle of his prime, he like had all those fucking issues that put him to like the back burner that the next generation doesn't know. Like young kids don't give a shit about. Like golf fell off a cliff. Like he made golf cool and he made golf popular, and then he got into trouble and he never got out of it. That golf just fell off a cliff. And then these young guys that were supposed to be good all are like none of them held Spieth and Fowler, and like none of them caught fire and became great. They all were like, okay, they compete.
You're saying I enjoyed this a little bit yesterday because I am an old fart.
No, yeah. Well, it recalls to a generation where golf was interesting. Like,
Yeah.
Again, Scheffler's become consistent, but he's boring as fuck.
Oh,
Like,
he could not be. I mean, Vanilla is a disgrace to
like
Vanilla.
Jack and Arnie
Yeah,
had
great
personality. Like, even
Yeah.
Jack was boring compared to Arnie. They had their thing, and like there was always personality in different guys. Seve Baez there, like
Yeah, Lee Trevino.
this generation of guy is boring as fuck. Like they've gone back like 60 years.
Yeah.
Like
They're all out of the mold, the prototype mold. Where
Yes.
you got a guy in sort of tan slacks and a white golf shirt, and his hair is perfect, and he looks like he's been in a tanning salon and not out there on the course getting scorched by the sun here in Florida, and just clean as a whistle after playing 18 holes, not even a bead of sweat, nothing, no grass stains.
no one's dominant. Like
Did you ever come off a golf course like perfectly clean and
no,
like you could go for a GQ? No, you're fucking a mess. Let's bring in Tony Segreto here because, but the point being, transitioning out of football, I got into a little college basketball last night. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit with Tony. Tony, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine and dandy. How are you, Defo? How are you, Lubie?
Morning, Mr. Segreto. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing
Oh,
fine.
good. Yeah. All right. So where are you at with this? I mean, I thought of you the other night. I actually watched a little bit. I didn't realize what a monster team your Florida State Seminole women's softball
Yeah,
team
they're really good this year.
what was putting out there. But holy crystal bustos.
Baseball team's supposed to be really good too.
They are fucking. I mean, they're winning every game by the mercy rule.
Yeah, I know.
That.
I haven't
They're
seen
hammering the ball.
I don't like the 10-run rule when I was playing, even if I was on the team that was winning, because
Boring.
you
It
got to
sucks.
play less.
You want a pound?
No, but I mean, you want more at bats or whatever. I mean,
They got it going, boy. I tell you what, Lonnie Alamina's really recruited well, and she's
she like the female Mike Martin? No, she wins.
she wins a lot. She's the female Ron Frazier.
Very good point. No, that's a good one, Tony. Great name you brought up here. That's why you are so appropriate to have as a part of old school with Tony Segreto, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. Yes.
And since we bring it up the subject, you brought it up. There's no reason on this God-given earth that the University of Miami doesn't have women's softball.
Yeah, that's weird. They don't have softball.
Why don't they? They're. I always think of them.
You go to them and you go
forward with the whole women's movement.
Since Radakovich got here, he has said he'll bring it on.
Okay.
I don't even
So
see.
you're saying he reminds you of certain politicians.
And then they keep saying, well, Miami doesn't have a place to play. Well, you farmed everything else out. Farm this out too.
You couldn't put a little short fence in Marklight Stadium?
Park, like, what are you talking?
No, the baselines would be way off.
No, but I mean, I don't get that. I mean,
There has to. I mean, I was just talking to Lubie. I'm amazed here because we were wondering if this property tax was really going to go away, and if
Oh,
so,
yeah.
how it was going to impact things. And you would think places like local recreational parks would suffer,
Yeah,
perhaps, as
it's gonna hammer everything.
Mathis builds condos there. But and you grew up here in South Florida playing ball, Tony. I mean, the facilities here are fantastic. That the general
They're
public
great.
has
You
access
know,
to.
I heard you guys talk about that. They're the best I've seen. I remember driving up to New Jersey, and all the stops we make, I check out, you know,
Every
the
park.
local parks,
Yeah.
and we surpassed every single one of them. Even in New York. I
Oh,
mean,
it's amazing. Oh, New York, forget
Yeah,
about it. Are you kidding me? I still have a vision of this, Tony, from my many rides on the Long Island Railroad, going back and forth to the city, and more frequently when I was
where'd you
vending
grow up?
souvenirs at Shea.
Where'd you
What's
grow up?
I grew up in Brooklyn, but then my family moved to the South Shore of Long Island, Belmore, Long Island, and so I used to take the train from Belmore to Queens to go to Met games, and I did that several times a week, kind of like a commuter there almost. And we would pass by this little league field. It was in Rockville Center, Long Island, and they actually had like sort of a stadium. Not a
Yeah.
stadium, but they had a fence. The ball didn't roll all the way to the fucking school when you hit one. 'Cause that was always my favorite little league home run. I don't know about you, Tony, but there was no fence. The ball would go between the legs of the shortstop, find the gap between the left and center fielder, roll all the way to the school, and even if you were the fattest, slowest slug of a little league,
I was for a
you were
while.
bombing around the bases. But in Rockville Center, we were all jealous because they had a sodded field. This wasn't something where you felt like Tony fucking Kubek out there every day, wondering if a clump of grass was going to get in the way. And next thing you know, the ball's in your Adam's apple and your career is over. I don't know if you remember that, man, but
Yeah. I remember.
it was kind of like Herb Score getting hit in the eye with a line drive.
Yes.
But they had a manicured field with base paths. They even had like lime down the side, the foul lines, and then a perfectly symmetrical fence, 210 feet all the way around. And I wanted my family to move there so I could play there. Everybody wanted to get involved in a game there because it was like a real stadium. And in Florida, everywhere you go, they have these well-groomed facilities. How could they not find a field, Tony? How are you not all over this with some kind
parks
of
all over the place.
revolutionary movement? You're on the board of directors, for God's sake.
Weird. That's weird.
That's the excuse. There's no field. That's
There's
bullshit.
no field. There's no field for them.
They could
Like
make a field on the quad. What are you talking about?
Like, I get soccer's not the biggest sport. Like, a lot of schools don't have men teams. Plenty don't have women's teams. Okay, fine. Softball is a big deal. Like, I don't.
Big
It's like
deal.
the fourth sport. I don't.
And if they had a girls team,
And they do well.
They would do well.
Yeah.
Really well.
I would imagine you have the cream of the crop of recruiting here because it's one of a couple of areas in the country. California, I guess, would be the other where you could play this game year round.
Year round.
And you see it. And there's a lot of organization at the lowest of grassroots levels.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I was involved a little bit. You'll find this surprising in little girls softball many, many years ago. And I thought, wow, I mean, they run this. We would have dreamt about that. Kids that grew up in Brooklyn didn't play in organized leagues. Of course, even at 9 years old, we were playing for money, but so that enhanced your enjoyment and your.
You had it in the back. You had it in the back of the dugouts like this.
All right, so that's the issue in the day then. And we were talking about this, and we never really got to the point because there maybe wasn't one. But in transitioning out of football. And I always had a great interest in all sports. In fact, I was not football centric when I moved here in 1981. I liked football just like everybody else. I enjoyed covering it. It was an honor to meet the great Don Shula and Howard Schnellenberger. We were talking about Schnelly yesterday on a show here on Bleacher Brothers that's up now with Charlie Partridge. It was great, by the way, Lubie. He sends his regards.
Love Partridge, man.
Yeah. He was great. He's now he used to be the FAU head coach, football coach. Had 3-3-9 seasons. He preceded Lane Kiffin, who actually it's amazing because Kiffin not only went like 11-3 his first year, but he went 11-3 his third year.
Yeah, the second year was and the third year was.
So he did well, but he was the only coach to post a large upside winning record, like maybe ever. I think at FAU.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is kind of weird.
Yeah.
So
Even
yeah, I mean,
Schellenberger had his issues at FAU.
yeah, but yeah, check out Charlie Partridge. He was great, and we were talking about Schnelly. But I didn't realize how football centric this area was. I remember being stunned because I thought, wow, the Florida State League, I'll go catch some baseball, thinking that this was going to be
Two
top notch
people were there.
baseball.
How many people were there? 2, 3?
It was worse than that. You know,
Yeah.
there weren't any people there. I went to Bobby Maduro Stadium there. Sonny Hirsch was like the GM of the local Florida
He was
State League
one.
team.
He was one. The three-legged dog.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And he's sitting there making book all day while he's in the general manager's office. And I'm looking at this stadium, and you were happy if you were parking on broken glass. It was far worse than any situation you had at the Orange Bowl.
I can't remember the name of the three-legged dog, but he was.
But I thought baseball would be bigger here, and as you were saying, I mean, you were back here in that time, and football would end. would be
I
done.
thought so too.
And,
I
and,
thought baseball
was
would be a big deal here, but it wasn't. It just really they first catered to the Cuban, the Cuban
Latin
immigrant.
audience it was there. They were trying to recruit.
And
Alex
that
Fernandez
didn't
was
work.
signed for that reason.
Then they expanded it to the Latin influence. That didn't work. Then they expanded it to everybody, and that still didn't work.
Old people would have been the game if you were going to market to 90-year-olds. That may be all that's there this year. I mean, with the freebie tickets. All right, we have to take a short break here. We're going to come back more old school, and Ed Garcia is going to join us. And Ed is very much in the spotlight with Dusty May and his Michigan Wolverine basketball team, as are the Florida Gators in the picture right now. Very interesting, wide open thing that we're trying to transition into here on the show. So we'll come back with Ed Garcia, Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, and Tony Segreto. More old school here on the Defo Show. Mike Lubie Lubitz in a moment. Now that. It's 8:46.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-4...
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse.
All right, welcome back. We got the full complement of players here. Ed Garcia from Texas Roadhouse Restaurants joins us. The handsome one is Tony Segreto. And Mike Lubie Lubitz is up there. What would that be? Do we juxtapose these things? Are you in the upper left corner?
upper
Lubie,
left.
on everybody's screen? All right. I get that confused.
Everyone-
Did you do it? This is the question of the day for Ed Garcia, Tony. Did he do it? Before the season started, before the football season started, did he bet the big quinella? Which would be Michigan to beat Ohio State in football. And then I was watching with great intent and with you in mind, Ed Garcia, Michigan basketball. Is it time to start acknowledging the ball that is shaped in the traditional round fashion with your Michigan Wolverines as they beat Ohio State? And did they play Ohio State twice in the same year in basketball? I'm thinking yes to that, home and away. So I don't know if they previously played, but in this case, did you parlay the Michigan football win to the basketball win with our good friend Dusty May?
I really wish I did do the parlay, but what a phenomenal
How much
game.
fun is that to just stomp on Ohio State?
Oh my gosh, my feed went bananas. Text messages, but I think I want to trademark the part. Can you be a national champion if you can't beat the national champion? I don't know if that's no. Hey, you know what? I'll tell you. You know what was really cool about that game? I don't know if anyone saw his post conference, but Dusty May, the just gave Ohio State so much credit.
Yeah.
He was so humble, and the first thing he said, he's like, "That is a national championship team." He was just giving all the highlights, and that's again, I'm not going to say it's uncommon, but what a phenomenal leader. I know coming from FAU, he made FAU a Final Four contender and revitalized that Michigan program like on a dime. I mean, it was hurting last year, and it's very, very impressive. So it's good to see that hey, the Michigan Athletics are continuing to go big.
Is he already a big deal there? Because it's funny, we didn't realize, because we've been in our football cocoon, we didn't realize how well they were playing until like Defo was like, they're ranked. I'm like, really? Yeah. And they're like, but I know you guys are in on everything. Look, basketball was always a huge deal there, the 80s, 90s.
Correct.
Howard came back. Like, is he already with you and your brethren? Like, are they already like, oh, please just find a way to keep this guy? Like, is he already someone you guys are holding up high?
Yes, we're holding him very, very high. There's been a lot of chat about him for probably, really locally, it's been happening for probably a good 6-8 weeks. But there was a little bit of a scare about a week ago, and it's still a lot of rumors drifting around. But Indiana is
that's where he made his bones.
Yeah, that's his home. He worked under Bobby Knight back in the day. Yep. He might have caught a chair or two himself. But other than that, it's they're going to want him back. But from the last thing that I saw him say, he says he really loves what he's doing there. He loves the magic and he's enjoying himself. And I mean, that's a tough program to go around. And if you can make Michigan a top 4 contender again, I mean, heck yeah, let's go.
Not since the Fab, go ahead, Tony. Go ahead.
Not since the Fab Five have they been relevant.
Yeah.
Well,
and now I believe 2 games on tap as they close out the regular conference season against Michigan State, who had a big victory last night, pulled them within a half game of Michigan. So Michigan basketball certainly thriving. And what I love about Dusty May is I was watching this game, and Lubie and I saw this guy, I guess when he was a freshman at FAU, and he went to Michigan with Dusty May. This 7-foot guy, Vlad Golden is his name, right? This guy, was a discombobulated klutz when he was a freshman. I mean, he literally couldn't walk across the baseline without falling down and being tripped up. And the progress that this guy has made, I mean, he's just tough as nails inside now. And he really was the main impetus, I thought, towards closing out that game. He was grabbing every rebound, had a couple of putbacks, and I'm thinking, that's great coaching when a guy can make. I don't know if there's some assistant that went with him to Michigan also that coaches big men, but the progress this guy made from being a complete putz to what he is now is incredible. And it's not like he's doing anything flashy. It's just he just became a really solid player.
The secret is that having him walk on the ice to and from class. You learn to walk really, really good.
Oh no, he sort of developed. He was a big part of their Final Four run at FAU. But the progress this guy made from year to year, and he had already made a quantum leap forward while still at FAU. But man, he was as big a presence late in that game as Zach Edey was for Purdue the last couple of years.
And you got to think March Madness now, because we're a couple of weeks away.
Yeah,
yes,
from the season being over, so we got to factor that in too. And this should be a great March Madness.
Agreed. I'm looking forward to it. So I'm ready to fill out my bracket. We should get a bracket, the 4 of us, and
show bracket
and see who does best. So I don't know what the prize can be.
But, whoever I mean, this would be an advantage for you, but whoever wins it pays for a dinner for four at Texas Roadhouse. Which at the end of which you would be saying to yourself, "Man, I got off light here." You know, she didn't order anything. I mean, it's like going out on a date and getting out of it for under $100. You know, it'd be awesome. And what's happening lately? Of late, I know you were up in the Melbourne area there with the new place. How's that working out? I'm assuming that is a smash hit in that area.
Oh my God!
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that restaurant, we're just coming on the new one right there by the water on the Golly Drive. It's coming up on.
Oh, there's a second one now in that area.
Yeah, we just opened Vieira not too long ago, and then we have 3. We have Palm Bay in the Space Coast area right there. We have Palm Bay, Melbourne, and Vieira, and we had a phenomenal weekend with Valentine's Day. Thanks to everybody that came out. Came on the wait and did all that fun and exciting stuff. And then we ended it, with Monday on President's Day. We opened up for lunch, and that was another phenomenal day. A lot of great specials that are going on out there. So really, really exciting. And then other than that, we're just ready to kick some butt. We got our early dine special Monday through Thursday, and all the restaurants, most of them go till 6. Some go in the Miami area at 6:30. That's where I'm hanging out today. The planes flying behind me are Miami International Airport, but the early dine is fantastic deal, and I know that Tony's going to ask, so I'm just going to go ahead and
we have money riding on this.
I replied to our letter of intent and to Davey, so we have a signature on our side. We need a signature on their side.
How long will it take you to be open? If they
sign? I mean, there could be the second coming. I have no idea. I mean,
does that follow-up question constitute Tony asking about Davey and Lubie? Because if it does, then you win. You said that would be his first question. I see it.
The attorneys get paid by the hour, unfortunately. If there was a flat rate,
didn't you have another place? Didn't you have another place you were looking at?
I have 2 spots in Davie. So just, for some reason, in case this one falls through, both of them are fantastic. I'm doing a little bit of leveraging on one against the other. I don't want to say, really like I love them both. Both of them have just great reasons on why they should be a Texas Roadhouse. I mean, number one, it's Davie. Number 2, it's just, hey, I want to bring it to the community and have some fun. But this one's moving a little bit quicker. The other one, we're waiting for the current restaurant to disappear.
All right, sounds good. All right, and hopefully we will get together soon.
Yeah, we should
always coming on a show. Good luck with your Michigan basketball team.
Let's go Blue.
I think that's this weekend, the first of the 2 games between Michigan State and Michigan to close out the season. So, and Michigan State with Tom Izzo, always going to be a popular team, it seems like. Half game back in the Big Ten. So very interesting stuff going on there out in the Midwest when it comes to hoops. So thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, guys. Have a great one.
You're good.
Ed Garcia, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so Tony, you're all over women's softball. We were trying to figure out this transition. I'm trying my best to get into college hoops. Normally would not struggle with that. The NBA was off. I think hockey stole the spotlight for everybody.
Yeah, the U.S. Nations tours tomorrow.
I don't know that there's ever been an all-star game. Which can you count this or consider this an all-star game? It's what they're doing during their all-star break.
Yeah, it's our all-star game.
They have a completely. No one's ever anticipated and gone, "Oh man, I can't wait for the fucking all-star game."
Yeah,
because you knew it was going to be, somewhat trumped up Drek, mostly featuring offensive players and no intensity and no defense whatsoever until NBA at least used to fake it into the last 3-4 minutes of the game. Then you would see a guy put some token pressure up. But generally, it was not something you anticipate. Baseball all-star game I used to anticipate.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's ever been anything like this. And hockey was completely out of the spotlight.
They're talking about a sold-out stadium. They're talking about what ratings are up. I mean, it's
who isn't going to want to watch this bloodbath because they got into the fight. I don't even remember really much of the game.
Fighting. There's everything you could ask for in a hockey game. There's everything you could ask for. Fighting, great skating, great scores, great defense. I mean,
is the entire team, though, for the USA comprised of MAGA followers? Because when did we start hating Canada like this?
Well, we don't.
We don't need Canada.
I
One
mean,
man does.
you wouldn't think though. Wouldn't you think they touch gloves before the game or something? Even fighters that have been spewing nothing but ugly and just very, very, viciously laced venom at their opponent. I mean, they might touch gloves before the fight even starts.
It's all
What happened there, Tony?
It's
When
all
did our
fair.
relations break down with Canada to this level where even hockey teams representing the two countries go into a brawl before the game even? I mean, it looked just like
It
the
was,
Red
what
Wings
was
and
it,
the
30
Avalanche
seconds,
many
30
years ago.
seconds into the game?
It was like 9 seconds.
Before the game, the puck hadn't even hit the ice yet. They already had two guys going at each other.
They were going at it.
Yeah, it was great.
I can't wait for tomorrow night. It'll be something. It'll be something to watch.
So I mean, obviously, I'm thinking, geez, how many Canadian fans come down and get to Boston? That would be a short trip from Montreal. Interesting though. I mean, because as All-Star concepts go, what we've seen. I mean, All-Star games have dissipated to the point where it's almost impossible to even fake interest in them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, baseball still is representative of the game itself, even though
Baseball, basketball, and hockey lend itself to good games. But now
hockey, I don't know that you want to be, cracking skulls in an All-Star game, but they are in this, because they made it about nationalism and not just a bunch of guys getting together that never played together and are all on different teams in different conferences.
But this is
Yeah, no, interesting stuff. All right, Tony, what do you got going on? Will we see you soon?
You see you Friday.
Okay, all right, very good. Now, have you been making any wagers? I see you leaving the track without hitting the windows, which is a form of discipline I don't possess.
Yeah, I have to do that because I don't see anything that attracts me.
All right.
There may be something this week.
You never know when you're going to pop on. I tend to listen to your tip horse when you finally come up with one because the garbage I've been getting from everybody else is.
You've been striking out. You hit one. You hit one last week. You hit one last week.
I was all right last week. Week before, I think I made some money. I haven't been. My strategy is a very light bankroll on the Friday card because I want to have ammunition for Saturday when I like to fire away at a local pari-mutuel facility, Harris Casino, which is always very good to the Mustang, by the way. They love slot players. They love them, Tony.
And she loves it.
No, it's addiction city. There's no doubt. And I can see where people get addicted to it, but and she holds her own, which I don't know that many people do in slot play. Doesn't it seem like you're destined to be separated completely from virtually all of your cash? No?
Yeah.
Once in a while, you run into somebody and hit for like 160 grand a progressive jackpot, but very rarely do you see that kind of thing.
I never, ever. I think I've put one coin in slot machines.
Never.
Oh, good for you.
No wonder you have houses all over the country. Very good, Tony. All right. We love you, Tony Segreto. Ed Garcia, thanks. Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, always a pleasure. Old School with Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants.
Bye, guys.
All right. We will see you guys mañana. And it should be a lot of fun. We'll have the trivia challenge, and we'll dedicate that to Lenny the Chronic. Lubie,
yes, 100%. That game is definitely.
Do we have a picture or something, post-mortem picture that we can post of this gentleman? Because we really, it's still a stunner to me. I
thought about all day yesterday.
Yes, I mean, it wasn't like some guy that we were intimate friends with or anything, but we did see him enough to consider him a longtime friend.
I saw him every week, and he was
you did too, yeah.
And he was a good dude. I mean, from
always happy, yeah,
good dude, and just it's sad.
That's crazy, huh? You just never know, Lubie. You never know. So,
no, you don't. You really don't.
Yeah, the message clearly. I mean, he just he posted on his Facebook page that he had installed a new 72-inch television. He was going to be kicking back watching sports. He had won a couple of trivia competitions. And the next thing you know, he rolls a 7. Unbelievable. He did not request that his ashes be spread at the finish line at Gulfstream, did he?
He's not a huge...
Because I couldn't go through that again if somehow Big Al was in charge. I mean, if Big Al owned a funeral parlor...
No, he's no.
The suicide rate in the country...
he's not slick at all.
Talk about something that
He's neurotic.
politically incorrect like that, but it would ratchet up exponentially. There would be no doubt. All right. Thanks, people, for tuning in. We kind of rambled today. I don't know that we discovered anything of any great interest. Lubie, would you say? Not really. We went everywhere from the Rockville Center Little League field. I really was jealous of that. Anybody that grew up on the South Shore of Long Island knows exactly of what I speak if you happen to be an old geezer at Caesars like I am. But the envy that we had for these kids that were playing on like a regular field with a fence, for God's sake. Like you could actually hit a home run over the fence instead of, as I said, the two hopper to short that hits a giant clump of grass. And the next thing you know, it's impaled in the throat of the left fielder who passes out. And while they're attending to him, you round the bases with a grand salami. That was Little League Baseball at its best. All right, Louis, you have a great day. And we will see you guys. And thanks to the professor yesterday, that Charlie Partridge thing should be up on Bleacher Brothers. And Charlie was great yesterday. Very, very insightful into a lot of stuff.
He's classic.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It was interesting because, he had his first year in the pros. He kind of illustrated a big differential between pro players and kids that you had to coach in college. Even though college has become more and more professional. But the way he described the reactions and the approach of the players, even on the Indianapolis Colts, an 8-9 team, you could see how certain guys make it and have long careers in the pros, and others are just crackheads, and they don't ever really fulfill their potential because they just don't have that kind of discipline like he was talking about. So it was interesting. All right, thanks, Libby. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Dave Gurgly with the Trivia Challenge, dedicated to Lenny the Chronic, who sadly passed away, much to everybody's surprise. And we'll be sorely missed. I miss his. This will be with the first show I think we've done on a stream. Maybe he's missed a couple, but where you don't see Lenny the Chronic up there on the board as a possibility to be a player. All right, so yeah, we'll have that tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:06.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done.